Paul, I think this is a first you and me recording like this. And welcome to
Give me a break.
You've Got It. So, Paul, tell me, what do you do to take a break from the turmoil and woe of everyday life?
Yeah, the turmoil and woe. Okay, well, I guess to take a break, I do like to go for a run. Yeah, just get my trainers on, get some kit on, shorts, t-shirt. You don't need much, and just head on out that door.
And have you learned any spiritual lessons from your everyday hobby?
I have actually, yes. It's a great opportunity to think and pray as you're running. And I've had all sorts of kind of interesting meditations going on while I've been out there for a run, because you are in a totally different environment to normal and doing something that you're not normally doing in the house, and it gets you out and about. And so I've learned about the main lesson would be endurance. And there is a scripture actually, and I read it this morning, Hebrews 10:36, and it says you need to have endurance so that when you've done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. So there is an enduring aspect of being a follower of Christ. Some people follow Christ for a while and they gave up. They left. And that's true of running also. I've seen all sorts of people say, "Oh, I'm going to start running. Will you help me?" And I've said, "Yeah, I'll help." And I've been around to knock on their door, and they kind of fall at the first hurdle. The one guy said, "Oh, I've got a blister on my foot. I can't come," and it's all sorts of excuses. Like Jesus said, one said, "I've just married a wife. I can't come." And one, "I've got to bury my father. He's died. I can't come." One, "I've just bought some oxen. I can't come." And we get these excuses, don't we? And so it takes endurance to follow Christ, because sometimes the way will get tough and hard. And that's true of running also. When you're like on a long run and you've got quite some way to go, it can be tough. And so wanting to stop is there within you, but enduring and pushing on through is a good discipline. And I've learned that partly from running, being able to push on. Yeah.
Now, you mention about pushing on. Now, how do you do that?
In fact, I wrote an article for a British running magazine called Body Language. And it was about me talking back to my body. When I first started running some years ago, I was going up this hill and I was finding it really difficult. And I thought, I'm going to walk. And I thought, no, don't let your body dictate to you like that. You make it. And I thought, right. And I told my body off and I made it run even faster. And I used to say, if you give me any grief, I'm going to make you work even harder. And it quietened down. My body did. Me and my body, we talked to each other. And it was quite a funny article, actually. And it got printed in one of the British running magazines. Yeah.
It sounds very encouraging, actually, that
Yeah.
article.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good one. Yeah. Body language, it was called.
yeah, body language.
Yeah,
So,
because I talk back to my body. Yeah.
so what first got you into the hobby of running?
Good question. Well, when I was in my early 20s, I was ill, and I was ill for a couple of years, really. I was in and out of hospital. They were checking me out, trying to find what the problem was. I could see there was something organically wrong um, because of what was happening to me. And I won't go into any details, but it's, a bit grim. But um, gradually over that 2-year period with prayer and petition, I started to get well again. And when I got through that period, the Lord seemed to speak to me from a scripture, and that's in Hebrews as well, about strengthening those feeble knees and the ankles that give way. And that's a quote from Isaiah 35, actually. And I thought, that's really what I need to do. And I know there's a spiritual aspect to that scripture, but for me, it meant actually doing what I could physically to get stronger and strengthen those feeble knees that give way so easily. And there were a few little strings that pulled together at the same time. I was watching the Olympics, and it was in Spain that year. It was 1992, I think, if I remember correctly. And I thought, why am I watching all these people running when I should be out there running myself? And so I got up and I went out for a run. I didn't go too far that first time. But since then, I've tried to make it a weekly discipline that I go out, most days of the week for a run. And I've found out it's really helped me tremendously. And I'm so blessed that, there are so many good aspects to it. I know it's not for everyone. And I wouldn't try and make people run if they don't want to, of course not. But I know some doctors in the UK do actually recommend it for various things, like depression, for instance. I know some doctors, they prescribe the park run, which is a 5K event on a Saturday morning, every Saturday across the UK, across the world, actually.
Yeah, and that's good, isn't it? So some people physically can't run, Paul, because they've got a disability of some kind or some medical condition. What can they do then to get strong? Because you mentioned how prayer made a difference in your life for your healing, and also some self-help to strengthen those knees. So tell us a bit more.
Yes, well, that's true. Everyone can't run. But what can you do? Find out what you can do to move more. And if we can, our bodies are made to move. In him we live and move and have our being, Paul said. So moving is important, and all muscles are made to move. That's why we've got them. And so when we move the muscle in whatever way we can, some people that like swimming, or walking, or go on the elliptical trainer, that's not so, jarring for some people whose joints. Although I am told that the pounding of running is actually good for the bones. It makes the density. That's what they say anyway. So, but I think the general thought is to do what you can.
And the National Health, the NHS,
in
they've
England,
been doing, haven't they? 5K, the Couch to 5K.
Oh yeah, the Couch to 5K. That's a really good program. In fact, I've helped with the Couch to 5K. In my own local area. I've taken the stretching session after the training session to. Yeah, that's good. And it's surprising how many people want to do that. Yeah. And it's good to get to know people as well.
Different ages?
All sorts of different ages and shapes and sizes, yes. Great. And it's quite heartwarming to be out there with people who've got the same goal in mind. Yeah.
So have you ever fallen? Have you fallen over?
I've fallen over, yes. I mean, if you run over that long of a period that I've run, you will occasionally fall. That's part and parcel of it. I've had grazed knees. In fact, I fell over on the ice, as you know, recently. And, my knuckles have just started healing up from that. But I think there's a great scripture that says in Micah 7 verse 8, do not rejoice against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I will rise. And so that gives me a spiritual lesson, because I know sometimes when we fall down, we think, why am I doing this running? Why am I doing it? I'm getting hurt. And it only happens occasionally. But also, people think the same thing. Why am I a Christian? I get such flack for it from people. And when I fall, they just pounce on me. And Micah says, don't rejoice against me, because when I fall, I will rise. And that's the important point there. Rising, getting up, keep going, don't stay down. There are many people who want us as Christians to fall, and we all do fall, and stay down, but we won't stay down. That's the Lord helps us to get up and start running again, because the Lord is very gracious to us and full of mercy, and he helps us. So yeah, we have such a great cloud of witnesses. Let us cast off everything that hinders and run with perseverance.
So when you're running and you fall, do you find that the people around you, say on a park run, because we know there's probably a couple of hundred people there, do you find that they're quite encouraging to you and build you up?
I've never fallen on a park run, I don't think, but I know I've been out when I first started running. I joined a running club, when I made some great friends there. I still have got great friends there. And I've found them to be very encouraging. Yes, there is a very positive vibe when you belong to a running club. And it doesn't matter how good you are, it's a people of every discipline, whether you're slow or fast. But one of the good things is when you're running with the group, very rarely do you hear people make any negative comments, like, oh, this is hard, oh, I can't go any further. Oh, you don't hear comments like that.
Body of Christ then should build one another up, you're saying, yeah?
There is a scripture, and it says, consider how you can spur one another on. Yes, and I read that this morning too. Yeah, and so that is important, isn't it? We need to spur each other on and give each other a zeal for God. Yeah. That's important. Yeah. It's the same with football clubs as well. Just going off at a tangent here. When I was young, a teenager, and in my early 20s as well, for a while, and that's when I got ill, actually. But I was playing for a football club, and I noticed that the best clubs that I played with were always positive, proper teamwork. And I had played in teams that were, you got a few people who were naysayers and negative comments, and that's not good. And I think the church ought to be encouraging to each other, helping each other. And if we fall, let's get each other up and back up running.
Yeah, that's some good points there. So would you say that you take inspiration from the elite athletes?
Oh, right, the elite. I do, actually, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've studied their training logs, actually. And some of them, they train 3 times a day. I know it seems incredible, doesn't it? But they do. I don't, but they do. And that, I've learned lessons from that, because when I think about, say, Daniel, for instance, he had to endure much, and yet he prayed 3 times a day. He would open his windows and point them towards Jerusalem, and he would pray. And that is a good discipline, because each one of us ought to take Daniel's example there, and be disciplined about prayer. The elite runners, they are very disciplined. And I believe there is a book, I've never read it, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it who are Christians, and it's called The Celebration of Discipline, and how that works into our life, our prayer life, reading the scriptures, having fellowship with each other on, Zoom or church or whatever, where we have fellowship. But those are disciplines, and we do them regularly, and we have this kind of disciplined attitude, just like an elite athlete does. And of course, it pays dividends for them. And so it does for us. Daniel was blessed. He endured, even though he was like running a marathon, because when you get to like mile 18 or 20 of a marathon, and there's 26.2 miles in a marathon, you can get pretty tired and weary. And Daniel was thrown into the den of lions. And what a journey he had, what a race he was running. And yet the Lord had his hand on him and pulled him through. And Daniel's testimony is that he prayed in a disciplined manner and he put God first.
Paul, I think that you've really encouraged us all today. You've encouraged us to get healthy and fit physically and active, and also get spiritually fit, which is even more important, isn't it? So,
Amen.
Paul,
yes,
thank you for joining me today for Give Me a Break. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.